Lynn rolled up her sleeve with a theatrical flourish. Look at this. On her arm, white and red feathers gleamed under the light. A swift crane manifested in her skin, its wings forming elegant patterns that ran up to her shoulder. A swift crane, Wren observed, the mushrooms in his hair pulsing with knowledge. But the feather pattern. Lynn traced the feathers with a finger. Most cranes can reach silver easily. They're creatures naturally gifted for cultivation, with a clear path to higher ranks. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes lost in the feather patterns. Mine was especially promising thanks to my family's resources. The professors said it had potential for silver too, maybe even. Well, pretty impressive, right? Or it was, until this fool, she pointed to herself, ruined her cultivation through impatience. The mushrooms in Wren's hair pulsed as he analyzed. The pattern clearly showed where the cultivation had deviated. Now it's permanently at bronze 1, having reached maturity, Lynn continued, pinching Wren's cheek. So let's say I have a weakness for special cases. Why me? Because, she leaned in so close their noses almost touched. I saw a little genius today. Sure, a genius who desperately needs physical training, but, she winked, that can be fixed. Wren saw a flash of pity in her eyes, though she hid it well behind her playful attitude, and she was right. Even a mature beast, ruined at bronze 1, was infinitely superior to his spore, at least in others' perception, since he knew the truth. However, Wren could certainly use some extra training. So, what do you say? Lynn ruffled his hair, making the mushrooms glow. Will you let this ruined assistant professor train the weakest student? The mushrooms glowed as Wren considered her offer. The knowledge showed him that Lynn's swift crane could have been extraordinary, and that it wasn't completely lost yet. I accept, he said finally. But? Lynn tilted her head, curious. Someday, Wren looked at the feathers on her arm. I'd like to talk to you about your crane's cultivation. Lynn blinked, surprised, before letting out a crystalline laugh. How daring. She pinched both his cheeks this time. The little expert wants to fix my cultivation. One thing at a time, darling. First, her smile turned mischievous. Let's see if you can last more than 2 minutes in a real fight. The teacher stood up. Well, enough rest. Lynn pulled a small green pill from her pocket. Take this. It will help with the pain and speed up your recovery. Wren swallowed the pill, feeling a pleasant warmth spread through his body. The pain didn't disappear completely, but it became more manageable. Now to class, Lynn helped him up. You have practical economics after battle class, and you can't afford to miss it. With your special condition, you need to excel in all theoretical units if you want to maintain your support. Wren nodded, understanding where the advice came from. Lynn believed that with his spore, he would need every point he could get. I'll see you after classes, Lynn smiled as she gently pushed him toward the door. And this time, try not to provoke anyone who might break your bones before you heal, okay? The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly as Wren headed to his next class. The lingering pain reminded him that, despite his victory, he still had a long way to go. Wren arrived limping to the economics classroom. Professor May was already in the middle of her explanation. That's why understanding crystal economy cycles is crucial, she was saying while drawing graphs on the board. The value fluctuates according to the season. Rain crystals, for example, are cheaper during the wet season. Taro waved to him from his seat, pointing to an empty space beside him. Smart merchants, May continued, buy when prices are low and store, but they must consider storage costs and degradation risk. Mr. Patinder, May stopped, her voice sharp. Is punctuality not important for? Professor, Luna interrupted from her seat, her voice cold and precise. Professor Yang sent him to the infirmary. There should be a note I left on your desk. Please continue the class. May checked her desk, finding a paper she had ignored. Oh. Her expression didn't change. Take your seat, Mr. Patinder. As I was saying, smart merchants buy when prices are low and store, but they must consider storage costs and degradation risk. Wren slipped in beside Taro, ignoring the whispers around him. As Wren sat down, he noticed his companion had taken detailed notes from the first part of the class. A well-stored iron rank crystal, May continued, can increase its value by up to 30% if sold at the right time. Most still saw him as the rotting boy. They thought it had been luck. A single quasi-victory wouldn't change their perception. He would have to win many times more before anything really changed, but Luna had defended him again, even if perhaps indirectly. After economics came crystal gathering class. Welcome to the crystallography laboratory. Professor Song placed several samples on the main table. Before taking you to the mines, you must learn to identify what you're looking for. He lifted a crystal the size of a fingernail. Iron rank crystals like this one are the most common. Each student with basic support will receive one daily. Notice the opaque glow, the irregular structure. Perfect for iron rank beasts, but he pulled out another crystal, 10 times larger and brighter. Compared to a bronze one, the difference is obvious. The students leaned forward, fascinated. Bronze rank ones are rarer and more expensive. Each is worth 10 iron ones. After 6 months of steady progress, you'll be able to receive one of these daily. If you pass your exams, of course. Luna, in the front row, watched with interest as the professor lifted a crystal the size of a strawberry. Silver crystals are worth 100 iron ones, and gold ones. He held one the size of a fist, 1,000, though I doubt many of you will need them. His gaze lingered on Luna, whose shadow wolf had gold potential. While the professor continued explaining each type's properties, Ren calculated mentally. The crystals he would need for his evolution were bronze rank, 10 times more expensive than what Taro would use. The mushrooms in his hair pulsed softly. Somehow, he would have to find a way to get them. Truly motivated students wonder how to obtain higher rank crystals. The professor smiled at the eager looks. There are 3 paths to prove you deserve the next level of support in my semester exams. He drew 3 paths. The first and most direct, evolve your beast to the next rank, though, his smile became knowing, most prefer to study more before risking their cultivation, so few take this route. Several students nodded. A mistake in evolution could ruin their lives. The second path is presenting a thesis detailing your evolution method. You must demonstrate deep understanding and a viable plan. He pointed to the second branch of the projection. It's the most popular option. Ren noticed how many of his classmates relaxed. It was the safest path. And the third, the professor made a dramatic pause. Prove you can get the support by yourself. Murmurs filled the classroom. If you can obtain crystals and synthesis materials on your own, without buying them with your family's money, of course, they can be from within the school, or acquiring them in practical classes. The academy will match your collected amount. His eyes gleamed. That's why we're an expensive school. But that's also why you can recover much of your investment if you demonstrate capability. His expression turned serious. Of course, venturing to get materials has its risks. The academy isn't responsible for your safety if you choose this path. That's why most prefer the thesis. Though regardless of the path you choose, you must pass the theoretical exams of all your classes to advance. Knowledge is the foundation of all successful cultivation. Now, Song smiled, who wants to see where we find these treasures? The students straightened with renewed interest. They're safe areas, of course, he smiled, specifically designed for students to practice gathering without excessive risks, though that doesn't mean it's easy. The mushrooms in Ren's hair pulsed. If there were official practice caves, that meant the academy had a whole network of tunnels under its buildings. Perhaps the ruins, he sensed. Don't forget to bring your book on crystal types, the professor interrupted his thoughts. You'll need them to identify valuable deposits. As students began to leave, Ren couldn't help but smile. The practice caves would be perfect cover for exploring deeper, where the real secrets waited. Welcome to the East Cave. Professor Song led them toward a reinforced entrance, one of our 4 practice zones, and conveniently, the closest to the Grey Wing. Ren and Taro exchanged a significant look. The proximity wasn't coincidence. Poorer students tended to spend more time in the mines. The practice mines were well-lit tunnels, nothing like the natural caves outside. Groups of older students worked on the walls, carefully extracting crystals. The tunnel descended in a gentle spiral, with depth markers every 25 meters. Song pointed at the walls. These are safe practice areas. But remember, even here, a mistake can be costly. You must learn to identify veins. We don't want you confusing a solid deposit with a liquid one and getting poisoned by mana gases. Also, mana density increases exponentially with depth, explained Song, stopping beside a 50-meter mark. The first levels are completely safe. The mana is barely more concentrated than on the surface. But observe this. He pulled out a detector crystal, a simple instrument that glowed in the presence of mana. At this depth, its light was dim but constant. Every 50 meters, the concentration doubles, he continued as they descended. At 100 meters, where our regular patrols end, the density is 4 times higher than on the surface, and the monsters. As if on cue, a distant roar resonated from the depths. Several students tensed.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.